And we're live. All right. Well, we're going to begin here shortly at right at 5:30. Okay, Council, we will get started. Welcome to 2023. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Clearview Township Council meeting. This is a regular council meeting, the first one of the year for 2023, and second full meeting of our council since we took over in this term. So it's like to welcome everybody here, members of staff, members of council, and members of the public that are here in the chambers with us. I'll start the meeting, of course, with Happy New Year. I think we can still say that for a couple of more days. And then I'll also like to begin the meeting with our land acknowledgement by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Tiatanati, the Wendat, and is the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. And at this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards a new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all that we do. Again, I always acknowledge that it's a statement that we say voluntarily, and I'm very proud and honored to say it as the mayor of the Township of Clearview. So, Council, we'll get our meeting underway, but I would like to just bring your attention before we actually go to the full agenda that in our chambers tonight is our MP, Mr. Terry Dowdle. We haven't had Terry visit us. He was in the neighborhood, dropped by, asked if he could come forward. So, Council, with your indulgence, we'll invite Mr. Dowdle to come up and say hello. Hello, Terry. Please come forward.
I'm not throwing anything at you.
Hi, Terry. Happy New Year.
Good evening. Happy New Year to all of you. I didn't have the opportunity to go to your inaugural. I'm sorry for that. Unfortunately, we have something in Ottawa called a whip, and that whip doesn't allow us to often do things that we want to do. So I could not be here, but I wanted to certainly come by and congratulate all of you. Ones that are reelected, obviously, it's because they were happy with your performance, which is fantastic. And to those new faces on here, congratulations. It's a lot of work for sure when you're running an election. For those that don't know, I come from the municipal side, and I know that this is the level of all the levels that really affects people the most and the quickest. So my door is always open. If anyone has any questions or concerns, you will get calls, especially the new representatives that are here. If you have anything from CRA, immigration, Service Canada, any of those issues at all, go through my office. And I just want to clarify right now too, as well, I'm not Bill 23. That's the province. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to stop by and congratulate all of you and let you know that we are working on hopefully some good news, perhaps coming in the new year. We've talked to some of the different ministers in Ottawa and hopefully working with the province as a lot of the funding programs go through the province because you guys are creatures of the province. So they kind of pinpoint the actual jobs. They say yes, and then it goes to Ottawa, and then hopefully they say yes as well to part of that funding. But like I said, my door is always open. I want to congratulate you. And I also want to say, I know the budget's coming up. It's going to be a tough year for every level of government, I think, quite frankly. But just bear in mind that I'm a resident as well. So I pay taxes, but I love it here. And like I said, I want to thank you. It's not an easy job for what you do. And any time at all, same with the staff. I've had great relations with the staff here, and I hope that we will have some good news coming this year that will help everywhere. Because I know there's Creemore, there's some issues that we want to deal with. There's Stainer, there's different areas here. So we're hoping we'll have some good news working in the future. And I know working with you has been a treat, to be quite honest with you. And this council is certainly one that is well respected. There's not a lot of, I don't know how you put it politically. It seems that your council seems to come together, make those decisions and move on. And I really respect that. And I think that's what's important. And then a lot of times we don't seem to see that on the municipal level, that when it's over, it's done. And you guys do a fantastic job of that. So I just want to commend all of you and look forward to working together. And I don't want to hold up your meeting. And I want to apologize to everyone here because you're probably waiting for something exciting. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Terry. And on behalf of council, we always welcome you to drop by. Any order of government that, works with us is welcome anytime.
Okay.
And I think this council will make accommodations to welcome you anytime. So please consider it an open invitation. Anytime you're in the neighborhood and you want to drop by, please do. We appreciate working with you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you. And one other thing, I hate to do this. Is there a chance that we could get a pictures with all of the new council and yourself just quickly?
Yeah, we did get a picture already. Do you want to get one with us?
Yes.
Oh, boy. I tell you, let's do it real quick. If
Just quick, up
members
by
of council could
the
just
flags.
come here,
Am I okay
stand
to,
right here?
am I
And
okay
Terry,
to
you
come
can
up?
stand right here in
Okay.
front. Okay.
This will be in the newsletter, so do not take it. It's a thing for the public. You get me probably the same thing you did. All right, keep this. How's that? You're all good. Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, members of council. Well, it was a pleasure to have Terry drop by and see us. Like I said, the door is always open to other levels of government. Perhaps we'll get the warden to drop in to see us sometime. What do you think about that? That'd be great. Okay, council, we'll move on to our agenda. Item number 1 is our in-camera. We did not have an in-camera session today. Nothing was scheduled. Item 2, we're moving to our agenda. Just a note about the agenda. Through the clerk's office, I've asked that we have Rick Monkman, who's from Emergency Management Group. He's going to present first. So just in the order of the presentations, 5.2 will be first, and then 5.1, which will be the Georgian Triangle Humane Society. Any questions? All right. I'm going to call the motion then. So be it resolved that the agenda dated January the 9th, 2023 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Deneen, Councillor Walker. Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. And disclosure, pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Has anybody got any disclosures at this time? All right. Seeing none, if anything comes up during the meeting, of course, bring it forward. We'll deal with it immediately. Council, we're going to go to public participation. Item number 4. Public participation. We have some folks in our audience here, but I'll read the advisory first. Please be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are to be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. Please remember to share the time with your fellow citizens. Council, there were no submissions by electronic, so tonight we will go strictly to the microphone in the room. Are there any members who wish to come forward? Mr. Witzka's here. Hello, Bud.
Hi, how are you?
Or do I call you Bud or Dave?
Bud.
Bud works too. Hello, Mr.
Yep.
Witzka. How are you?
Question I've got tonight is what was the final reduction in DC charges given to the Jarlett Retirement Project? From the media report in January 20 of last year, with no reductions, Jarlett would be required to pay development charges in excess of $4.5 million. From further on in the story, they said they were pushing for a 50% reduction. Now in the local media, on December 20th or 23rd, excuse me, of last year, they were bragging about the sod turning. So how much reduction did they get?
Thank you for the question. There is no reduction at this time. If you refer to the comments that I made at that opening, I said, I encourage the staff of Jarlett to continue to work with the staff of the Township of Clearview. And there has been no resolution and there's been no motion brought forward to this council in regards to it at this time. There's been nothing to report to the public. I do expect that the staff are working with the Jarlett organization in regards to their development charges, as it was subject to a presentation that they made to the previous council asking for said reductions, but we have not received any report and we've had nothing further.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any further from the audience?
Can I keep going?
Mr. Witzko, please come up.
Since the redevelopment of Locke Avenue, residents are now required to hook up to sewer and water. In October 2021, Councillor Walker got his daughter's house serviced prior to the onset of this project. Was it a private contractor or by the township? Could he share the costs incurred so his neighbors can do a comparison of private costs versus township. Thank you.
Mr. Witzka, again, public participation comments are directed to the mayor, so I will not be asking Mr. Walker. But I can advise you that, of course, Mr. Walker has declared conflict of interest, and so you can discuss it with the integrity commissioner if you so desire. All right. Is there anything further? Anybody else have any questions? Oh, hello, Bob. Mr. Charlton, nice to see you.
Good evening,
Good evening, sir. Happy New Year.
and to you
First
all.
I've seen you in a
Happy
long
New
time.
Year to you all.
Yes.
Your worship, and members of the council and staff, members of the public. This evening, council is being asked to approve a recommendation for the building permit fees for 2023. To support this recommendation, you've been provided with financial information that is an excerpt from the building department annual fee report of April 25th, 2022. For the period ending December 31st, 21, information that is over 12 months old. It appears that the building department annual fee reports are usually presented to council in the first quarter of the year for the 12-month period ending December 31st of the previous year. By that time, council has already approved the building fees, as you are being asked to do this evening, using a fee report not for the previous year, but for the prior year. What you're being asked tonight to do is to approve fees for 2023 using the financial information of 2021. I respectfully submit that the building department annual fee report should be prepared in the last quarter of the year for the period ending, say, September 30th. So that council has timely financial information when approving the fees at the beginning of the new year. Or alternatively, that council approve the building permit fees on or about April the 1st for the ensuing 12-month period with the benefit of the building department annual fee report that would include statistics to December 31st of the previous year. I believe it's fiscally responsible to do one or the other. Looking on to the reserve account, if I could revisit that again after our last meeting. The Ontario Municipal Councillors Guide advises that, quote, building permit fees can also include a component designated for the reserve fund. The reserve fund is intended to ensure that even if building activity in the municipality slows down, there is a sufficient fund to maintain building department services for a time without affecting the municipal finances or staffing. The report to council dated January the 9th, 23 states, quote, the second commitment was addressed by explaining the industry standards for the building department reserves balance is in the range of 1.5 to 2.5 times the building department annual operating budget. The existing reserve was reported to be in the range of 1.9. It was also reported that the building department anticipates a surplus for 2022, end quote. The balance in the reserve account as of December 31st, 21 is reported to be $1,365,000. The operating budget for 2022 before reserves was $664,000. The average annual surplus for the 5 years period ending December 31st has been approximately $330,000, and for 2021 was $313,000. If $300,000 is added to the reserve for 2020, the reserve would be at 2.5 times the 2022 operating budget. The reserve would cover the so it appears that we may now, or will shortly, have reached the upper limit of the industry standard for this sort of reserve account. The reserve would cover the anticipated operating budget for 2.5 years, assuming that no fees whatever were collected during that period. This leads me to ask, Is it a reasonable assumption that construction would come to a complete halt for 2.5 years? If that was to happen, is it reasonable to assume that the cost to provide the service would not decrease? If there were no fees coming in, would it not be financially prudent to take some action to reduce costs of operating the department? Do we really need a reserve of 2.5 times the planned building department operating budget? However, if we do assume that having a reserve of 2.5 times,
Can I ask you a question?
yes,
Did you hear my comment at the beginning in regards to the procedures for public participation?
I did.
And it says matters that have already had a public meeting or any item that's confidential. So we've had a public meeting in regards to the fees. It was a public meeting. You participated in it. You're actually mentioned in the report.
Mhm.
So you have to be cautious about what you're asking because it's already been in a public meeting.
Yes, well,
Just be careful.
I remember you saying that it was regarding a planning application, but
But it's also public meeting content. So yeah,
I misunderstood.
that's okay.
I'm almost finished. I don't think you'll.
I appreciate it. I just want to give you a
However, if we do assume the reserve of 2.5 times the operating budget is appropriate, it appears that we may well be at or near the 2.5 times limit at this time. So would this not be an appropriate time to adjust the building permit fees to avoid creating a further surplus for 2023? Thank you.
Okay. I'll answer it with this, and that is that the report is pretty extensive and outlines statutory responsibilities that the building department have, given that they're provincial regulations. And the public meeting and the report outlines that there's 0% increase at this time. As far as the operating budget, that's something that we can discuss at the budget process with the department when Amy Can and her department make their presentation about the building department. That's an interesting recommendation that you've brought forward, and perhaps we can maybe expand upon it in discussions at the budget process about the actual operating reserve. That's an interesting note too, that I wasn't completely clear on in regards to it having an upper limit in the reserve account. So I'm going to investigate that a little bit more, and perhaps we can give you a phone call and see if we can straighten that out. But in the meantime, I know you've got some great questions, and I've always appreciated your detailed analysis of these things, Mr. Charlton. So I would ask if you can take the moment to reach out to Amy and Scott and see if we can set up a conference to have a conversation about some of these items. It might be helpful for you and maybe even helpful for them. So is that something I can recommend that you'd want to participate in? All right. So through the CAO, Mr. CAO, if you want to make a little note that we perhaps can set up a small conference. Okay, John, thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Charlton. Is anybody else? You have a few more minutes? No, nothing further on public participation period for tonight. And so we'll close that up. Thank you very much for all those who participated. Always happy to do that. Okay, council, we have, let's do our agenda. Or sorry, we already did our agenda. We're going to talk about. We're going to do deputation's presentation. So Mr. Monkman is here. He'd like to speak to us, but before we go to that, I'm going to get him ready wherever he is. Oh, he's hiding back there. Hello, Rick. If you want to get yourself prepared, I'm going to go over to the fire chief, Scott. Would you like to introduce Mr. Monkman and advise us what he's going to speak to us about? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have Rick Monkman here from Emergency Management and Training Group. They were contracted to complete our fire master plan in 2022. So today he's going to present his findings and just an overall view of the report that was provided to us.
All right, welcome aboard.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight about your fire master plan for Clearview Fire and Emergency Services. Emergency Management Group, as we were called now, we were rebranded from Emergency Management and Training. I was quite proud to have been participating in this because we are a Simcoe County business out of Barrie. And it was very nice that we were able to participate and help one of our local municipalities in doing their fire master plan. Having said that, if we could have the first slide, please.
Oh, Sarah's got it. Hello,
Yes.
Sarah. All right. All right, go right ahead.
Anyways, if I might start, the fire master plan, we usually plan for them to be at least 10 years in length. It'll have recommendations in it. And in your case, we've made 40 recommendations on a number of issues. We will talk about those as I go through them. One thing I would like to stress is they are recommendations. They are not mandatory by any means. Council sets the level of service for your municipality. So what we have recommended are just that, recommendations. Council will work with the fire chief, or acting fire chief, I should say, and determine what the best to move forward in what priority. We also give an estimation for costing, and also we give a timeline of when we think it could be implemented, but none of that is hard and fast, okay? So what I'm saying is there's lots of leeway within it that you can work with the acting chief and determine what is the best time to implement some of these changes based on fiscal responsibility and costing as well. We're quite cognizant of the financial restraints going on right now with most municipalities, and it's getting more difficult as we go. And the cost of running a fire department is costing a lot more now than it has a few years ago. The prices are staggering what it's costing. So we'll have the next slide, please. So when we looked at it, we do a lot of research in doing it. We had a number of stakeholder meetings with some council participated in. We had meetings with executive members of the township management team. We had surveys done. We engaged with the firefighters, and I attended all the fire stations. We had meetings with the firefighters and discussed a number of issues. We get data analysis from the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office on past history calls to see how many have gone on, your fire losses, your response times, all that is taken into consideration. And then we make a draft recommendations and discussions with the fire chief, and then we bring it forward to council. Next slide, please. Now, we look at it as key functions of the master plan resolves around the 3 lines of defense that the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office is promoting. The first line is public education. And the second line is code enforcement and inspections, and that's your fire inspections and charges laid under the Ontario Fire Code. The third level is your emergency response. But we in an emergency management group consider it as having 4 steps, and the 4th step is your emergency management program. And we have a look at that as well when we're doing fire master plans, because they're tied quite closely together. Next one, please. So we base it on 40 recommendations. You can look at them as strategic and operational. Strategic recommendations are ones that would need to come to council for council's approval, because there's usually a financial impact of some sort. Operationally, the recommendations are for the acting fire chief to review and implement as he can, and they're usually minimal cost or very low cost that could be covered within the budget without asking for extra funding. So tonight I'd like to speak on fire prevention, fire stations, the aerial necessity to purchase an aerial, and some training comments as well is what I'll focus on as well. And if I might add, at the end of my presentation, I'm open for any questions you may have. Next slide, please. So under fire prevention and public education, there needs to be more proactivity going out and doing the inspections. I realize that there's been a staffing issue going on, but if once it's being, how could I say, fixed or looked after now, you do have somebody in doing it. They are going to be doing inspections. The Ontario Fire Marshal's Office is really pushing the first 2 lines of defense, being public education and inspections and enforcement. And in completion of your community risk assessment, which I'm in the process of doing right now, those first 2 lines are what they're pushing on the community risk assessment, is more proactivity on the fire prevention side. Because historically, fire prevention has been a forgotten entity with any fire departments, because usually it's the shiny fire trucks that go racing down the street and making lots of noise that gets all the attention. And the fire prevention staff are really the unsung heroes, because they work hard in making sure the buildings in your community are safe for people to work in and live in. And they are mandated by a number of requirements by the Fire Marshal's Office to do mandatory inspections, and mostly the vulnerable occupancies, schools, that sort of thing, where there's a high life risk. They must inspect those yearly. The We understand that public education is a priority as well. The emphasis on possibly the firefighters help with some of that, but they would need to be certified to the NFPA standards. When we look at your program and what you have in place, there's a number of standards that we have to rely on. And the standards are the base layer. So you want to meet the benchmark, which is the base. Anything above that is great. Anything below that you need to work towards, because if something happens, they're going to bring the standards out and they're going to say, this standard says you should have this. And if you fail to meet that, then it could be, depending on the circumstance and what it is, it could end up being in a negative to the community and put the community at risk. So that's something that has to be considered. The other thing is the fire investigations. We recommend that the fire officers take the NFPA 1033, which is the fire investigation course, and get certified on it. We recommend that anybody that takes any of the enhancement courses for NFPA to complete them by getting certified. And the reason we say that is certifications are through what's called IFSAC, which is an international accreditation for training and pro board. And if anything were to go to litigation in court and somebody goes up in the stand and they question your qualifications, and if you're not certified, it could come into question that your ability to be competent in that role, if I could say that. So I really recommend that everybody be certified to the standards to take the courses. The other area we thought that a lot of municipalities are not pushing is residential sprinklers. There has never been, that we know of, and we've worked hard to find it, there's never been a fatality in a house that has had residential sprinklers. Everybody's been able to get out of the house in time and survived it. Sprinklers only will activate where the fire is because they're heat sensitive. So the damage, water damage will be to that area of the house, and the fire damage. It's not like it totally floods the house, but there would be significant savings on insurance costs. And I'm not talking hundreds of dollars, I'm talking thousands of dollars in some of the larger homes by doing residential sprinklers, but they are a huge safe gap. If I was building a new home today, that would be number one on my list, would be put sprinklers in them. I think everybody forgets about them. They don't realize they're available, but a lot of builders are reluctant to promote them because they say it's an added cost. Well, present cost is anywhere from $1.65 a square foot to $3 to $5, depending where it is. But right now, the Canadian Coalition for Residential Sprinklers is estimating about $1.65 a square foot. So on a $200,000 or on $1 million home, you're looking at about $20,000 to $30,000 extra. It's probably going to cost you $20,000 to $30,000 for some of these high-end homes in the township now in insurance costs. And they would be significant savings if they were to install sprinklers as they're building their home. It's very difficult to install them as part of a renovation and quite costly as well. The other thing I want to discuss tonight is there's now a mandate by the Fire Marshal's office that every municipality must have a tally of all their building stock. That means you need to know what quantity you have of every occupancy in your municipality based on the Ontario Building Code occupancy classifications. And it goes from A to F on those, and you have to come up with a number. And they're really focusing on lightweight construction, because lightweight construction fails quickly in a fire as quick as 20 minutes with flame impingement. And it's usually the roof rafters or the floor joists, which are pre-manufactured floor joists or roof trusses. They must be identified except for residential. You do not have to count up the residential. The Fire Marshal's office is saying, consider all residences as having some form of lightweight construction in it. And if the fire department goes in and they realize it's a home and it's well involved, they must consider there's lightweight construction and then adjust their fire attack accordingly. It would not be safe to send somebody inside if the house is fully involved and there's possibly lightweight construction due to building failure. Next slide, please. Under training, we've recognized that now that the Fire Marshal's office is mandating NFPA standards be completed for all fire departments in the province, that is going to take time. Time takes money to pay for. Unfortunately, that is an exposure that's coming forward. But there's another problem that we are finding as well, is the time commitment for firefighters to complete it. They don't have the time to give the commitment, and unfortunately, they're leaving the departments. And the turnover in a lot of volunteer departments is very high because of a number of reasons. There's personal, but also some of them don't have the commitment or the time to commit to completing the NFPA standards. The other point I want to talk about is a need for a training facility. The Fire Marshal's office has allowed or purchased 2 trailers that are available in the province to go around and assist with live fire training. Problem is the demand on those right now is so high, it's hard to get it booked. A lot of municipalities are looking at making their own training facilities, and they're not very expensive. You could cost you anywhere from less than $100,000 to $500,000, depending on the configuration you want. But a lot of them are making them just out of old sea containers and configuring them in different ways. The city of Barrie just opened one up, and I don't believe it cost them, I think it was just over $500,000, but it contains a dozen sea containers, and they're able to configure them in whichever way they want, and the stairs within them as well. So that would be a great bonus for training your staff, especially for live fire training. Next slide, please. Okay, the next one, please. We talk about stations. One of the concerns we had is the storage of fire bunker gear on the apparatus floor. Even though the stations have an exhaust encapsulation and entrapment system, there's still some exposure to the contaminants of exhaust. That gets adhered to the gear, and then it could be inhaled, which is cancerous. So we're recommending that possibly something be looked at to move them into a negative pressure room, which would mean an addition and a cost to the municipality, putting an addition on the fire stations. The diesel extraction system at Station 4 should be replaced. The rest of them are in great shape, but the one in Station 4 is a different manufacturer and different style than what the others are. It does not directly capture the diesel fumes, so they do linger in the station itself. The other point was automatic standby power at some of the fire stations. There was no generators. Lack of proper training rooms. The crews are doing training on the apparatus floors rather than having a proper training facility. Floor drains is another area that the Ministry of Environment is getting very sticky on when it comes to fire departments, because as you wash the trucks, there's oils and other chemicals that come off the vehicles, and without proper floor drains with separation tanks, these contaminants flow either out into creeks or out of the front doors onto the pavement and out on the street. So that is something to consider whenever new stations are built. The other thing is a bit of a health and safety issue, but also could be a money saving, is we didn't see any of the stations had red or green lights at their overhead doors. And what it is a red light means the door is not fully open and the truck should not proceed out the door. All too often, including myself in my previous position, we had firefighters drive through the overhead doors because they weren't up totally. And in their anxiety to go out, they didn't see that it wasn't fully open. And what that is a safety measure for if somebody's close by, the door doesn't come down on them. But also it's going to save excess expense to the municipality by preventing somebody from driving through the door. So if the light goes green, that means they can go ahead and pull out of the station. And the other point I'd like to make was new stations now, an extra cost that's coming on is the need for post-disaster engineering. That is a requirement of the province for all police, ambulance, and fire stations that come online now. And the other point was just locker rooms. Next slide, please. Now, we did look at the fire station locations, and the map on the right is a cluster, what we call a call cluster map. And you can see by the number of dots in certain areas, you can see where the majority of the calls are, which is Creemore and Stayner area. The New Lowell is quite a few as well because of the residential buildup area within New Lowell. Next slide, please. And then we also looked at the response times. NFPA standards dictate the response times for volunteer departments. When we looked at yours, we looked at the 6 firefighters within 14 minutes, but we did on the map, we did it in a 10-minute response. The other 4 minutes we gave to the benefit of the doubt for the firefighters to respond to the hall and then leave. So we did it as a 10-minute response time on our maps, and that's what we came up with. Overall, we found the coverage within the township is quite good with the stations where they are located now. You've got very good coverage. Next slide, please. The other point I was going to make, and I understand that it's being brought forward to council, is the purchase of an aerial device. That is a great move on behalf of the municipality. You've got some very large residential areas, residences that are 3 floors. Very difficult for the firefighters to get to the roof. Having an aerial device will help alleviate that problem and give them access to a roof quite easily, but also gives them the advantage of fighting a fire from above. Down, and especially when they have a fire coming through the roof of a building. The other point I'd like to make is that the aerial device could be used as a frontline apparatus out of the station it's assigned to, if provided it's of a smaller size. 75 foot was what we suggested as a minimum size of an aerial. You could go up to 105 foot. In fact, Toronto's bought a 200-foot aerial. That's a monster, but the price would be totally inconceivable for that apparatus. The other point I'd like to make is the cost of apparatus has gone right through the roof in the last 2 years. What used to be a $600,000 pumper is now $1 to $1.5 million. An aerial device that used to be $1 million is now $1.5 to $2 million. And the build time used to be 16 months to 18 months for a pumper. It's now 24 to 30 months. And for an aerial device, it used to be 2 years. Now it's 3 years. Because of the demand and the shortage of parts. So it is taking time to get apparatus. Some municipalities, and this is between yourselves and the fire chief, are looking at, and we have done some examination as used apparatus. And what we have found is in the United States, they're big into leasing their fire trucks. And after 10 years, they turn them back in and then they get a new truck. Well, those trucks quite often are in pristine condition. They've only been used for 10 years. Under the fire underwriter survey, you're allowed to use an apparatus up to 15 to 20 years. So if you could acquire a used apparatus for 25% of a brand new one, you still have another 10 years use out of it. So there is some savings, but it depends on the apparatus, depends on where it's going and what the intent of use of it is. So it's just, there's a lot of circumstance that has to be reviewed beforehand before that decision is made. But it is something we are recommending for some municipalities, especially if they're running less than 100 calls a year. It's very difficult to justify to me anyways, spending $600,000 to $800,000 in a truck when a good used one will do the same purpose. Next slide, please. And there's the training facilities I spoke of. The one on the left is what Barry just built in the last year or two. And the one on the right is the trailers that the Ontario Fire Marshal's office has purchased. Those are up around the $750,000 mark to build one of those and purchase one of those. It would be a very cost savings to look at sea containers, and possibly behind Station 4 in Creemore would be a good location to do it. Or where Station 3 is being built now, if there was enough room within that public works yard. It's a central location as well. Next one, please. So the next steps is we've moved forward to completing it in 2022. We're bringing it forward now. Review the recommendations going forward with the fire chief and work out a plan how you move forward. The other point I'd like to make is the Ontario government has mandated every municipality in Ontario to complete a community risk assessment by 2024. Good news on your behalf. I'm in the midst of working on yours right now. So you will have yours done well in advance. There's a lot of municipalities that have not started them. If I might add this little point, those that have not got them completed by July 1st, 2024 face a first fine of $500,000 and a second fine of $1.5 million. And the fire marshal's office has let it be known that they are not afraid to levy those fines to municipalities. So you're in good shape. You do not have to worry about that, but it is quite a shocking exposure to municipalities coming forward. So the next thing we would say is track improvements based on staff training, enhancements to current facilities, firefighter recruitment and retention, and improvements in fire prevention public education programs. And the next slide, please. During my discussions with the firefighters, you have a very dedicated group of people who really care about the people of Clearview. They want to do a good job. They want to be trained, but they really do care about their community and they want to provide a good service. And I was quite impressed by the loyalty and the favorable comments from a lot of the firefighters. They're quite favorable, especially towards council support. You've been very good in supporting the fire department. And when it comes to apparatus, you've got very good apparatus. Sure, they do get on in years and they do have to be replaced, but that's unfortunately the cost of doing business that everybody's exposed to. But I would also like to thank those members of council who participated in any discussions we had or meetings we had, and also senior staff in the municipality, because it all helped paint a good picture of where you're at. As far as the fire department goes, we believe you are in good shape. But with any fire department, there's always room for improvement. And I think you're well on your way. The chief has enacted a number of operational changes already that we had brought forward in the fire master plan, and I'm glad to see that some of the projects are moving forward. Having said that, thank you, and I'm open for any questions.
Well, Mr. Monkman, thank you very much for your assessment, and I appreciate all your comments, particularly those of our firefighters. They are, I found, a very dedicated and qualified group of individuals who serve our community every day. So I'm very thankful that they're there. That's for sure. Members of council, I'll just have a couple of quick comments, then I'll open the floor for questions if there are any. And to the chief, just to be clear, Mr. Monkman made comment about Station 4 regarding the diesel fumes. If I'm not mistaken, it might be well before your time, chief, but I think that was the first hall that we installed the diesel fume apparatus. So I think that's why it's sort of an unusual system there. It doesn't match the rest of the halls. So I'm not sure if it's something you've already considered in your budget or in your plans, but that is certainly something that I've been aware of in my conversations with firefighters. So is that correct? Does that make sense to you, chief?
Yeah, your worship, that is correct. So the system in Creemore, they don't connect directly to the trucks. It's just an ambient fan that pulls the fumes out of the building. Every other station has the connections right to the trucks. And I have gone a quote for Station 4 to get that replaced, but that'll be discussed at a later date.
All right. And if I can, to Mr. Monk, thank you, chief. To Mr. Monkman, you made a comment about the fumes affecting or impacting the turnout gear, and having it in the same apparatus bay is probably not a good idea. A zero pressure room. Could you further explain a little bit of that? Because that's an interesting concept to me. But
well, fortunately, a lot of your stations, 4 of the stations have got direct connect hoses. So it reduces the exposure to the bunker gear. But in Creemore Station, the bunker gear is out in the open. So when the trucks start up, the particulates from the exhaust will adhere to the bunker gear. That is cancer causing agents, is the exhaust fumes.
Right.
And historically, so when they put the bunker gear on, they disturb any particulate that got trapped on the fibers of the bunker gear, and they could inhale them. As you know, there's legislation that protects firefighters, presumptuous legislation on a number of cancers now, because the cancer rate in firefighters has gone through the roof. It's really astounding. And a lot of it has to do with either exhaust, but also the burning of the combustible materials in homes, because there's so many with chemicals in the fabrics and the materials they use now. But anyways, getting back to the bunker gear, what most fire stations now are doing, they're storing the bunker gear in a totally separate room away from the apparatus floor. The other point is it's a negative pressure room. So if there is any particulate from somebody has a dirty bunker gear, it's not pressurized where it could be blown into the rest of the building. It's, for the lack of term, drawn out of the room or sucked out of the room and blown directly outside. And what it is, it's a fan that would turn on every few minutes, and it's negative pressure. So it's drawing air out of the room instead of blowing air into the room. Because if it's blowing air into the room, then any of the particulates could be spread through the building.
all right. That's a good explanation. I hadn't heard that before. So that's a bit of education. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
The only other thing that I noted was that the discussion about sprinklers in residential homes, I've certainly heard about that in the past. And I know that one of our developers mentioned that it was one of the things that they were looking at as well. So I keep up the good work there and keep telling people to get them. I think it's a smart idea, but there you go.
Well, yes, and I think it's not well publicized by some builders because of the cost. They're just afraid of losing business. It has gone to the Ontario government numerous times to get the Ontario Building Code changed, but the Builders Association and some other groups have been able to prevent it from becoming legislated requirement. But having said that, there are some municipalities who have passed a bylaw mandating them in some of the residential developments based on the lack of water supply or access to that area. In fact, Midland did that in one of their developments.
Interesting. Okay.
It was an access problem there, and they mandated residential sprinklers be installed, and they were. But municipalities have that to do it as well, based on case by case, but they could be part of the subdivision agreement.
All right. I've just made a note, Midland. I'll take a look at that. Thank you very much, Rick, and thank you,
No
Chief.
problem.
I'll look to the council, members of council. Get any questions to the chief or to Mr. Monkman in regards to this? Oh, there we are. Okay, Phyllis Deneen, Councillor Deneen, you can go first.
Okay.
Then Mr. Beatler.
Just a couple of questions, maybe through your worship to yourself. There are no standby generators at any of the,
Through your worship,
like
Councillor
that.
Dean,
kind of surprises me.
they are portable generators that
Oh.
can be brought to the stations and plugged in.
Yeah.
But the only stations right now that have a dedicated generator that automatically turns on is the standard fire station.
Okay,
But we do have means of powering all of our fire stations.
thanks. The red light, green light thing sounds like it'd be an interesting option too, doesn't it? Especially when we're getting all the new trucks and the aerial one as well. And that's just a comment. But the NFPA, how are we doing as a group? Do the firefighters have to go off site for that training? Or is it online? Do they go to Vaughan? I know Dorset's gone now. What does that involve? I'm just curious.
So we're in very good shape as far as training in this department. All the NFPA standards for the firefighters, which is the 1001, is done in-house. And that's done during your recruit phase. So when they complete the recruit phase, they are certified. And as far as technical courses, some are done outside, but we do host courses such as pumper operations in-house. So our firefighters do not have to travel. We have a learning contract through the fire college to complete that in-house. But
Okay.
overall, we are in very good shape for meeting the requirements.
Thank you. That's
All right.
If
thank
I
you.
might add,
Go ahead, Rick.
kudos to the township for having a full-time training officer. A lot of departments have a volunteer training officer and they don't have the time to commit to it. And by you having a full-time officer in that position, that really helps get things coordinated and tracked and completed.
We
and
keep them
that's
busy,
good.
that's for sure.
Oh, yes. It's a lot of work to complete them. The biggest problem now in getting signed up in them is a lot of the courses are filled already years in advance. So it's becoming an issue for people to do it online. So what some fire departments are doing are bringing in a third party to do the training for them in-house. They'll bring them to the station and train them here, just to help fill that gap that they can't do it online.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Beelan, did you have a question?
Thank you, your worship. Does the new Lowell Fire Hall that we're going to build incorporate all these new ideas, like the separate room, the green light, et cetera, or do we need to say whoa? And
It's been a while since I've seen the drawings, Chief.
So there is a separate room for the bunker gear. There is a diesel extraction system and the red and green lights will be added. So
and what about this floor drain? Is it the right one too? Or
yes.
because it's kind of disappointing. It doesn't seem like the other fire halls are that old and they need these upgrades right away, it seems.
Not necessarily right away, but as you replace them. But if there's something that could be done interim, that would be great. They're not mandated, but if you're building something new, then they are mandated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker, I saw your card. Is there anybody else?
Yes, thank you, your worship. To Rick. So the cost of fire fighting is increasing dramatically.
Yes.
Do you see those smaller departments coming to a point where they're saying, you know what, we can't afford our own department anymore
Mhm.
and going to contract services of the neighboring departments? Do you foresee some of that happening? And I'm leaning that is we already have contracts with neighboring departments. So I'm just afraid that some of these smaller departments might end up backing off because they can't afford to follow through with all the rules and regulations. They can't afford financially to support all those. So I guess my comment is that the contracts need to be really looked at then for kind of a cost recovery with neighboring municipalities in case you end up with other neighboring municipalities saying we can't afford to run our own anymore.
Yes, that could be problematic. I can see something happening in the future. Without naming clients, there's some we've worked with that we are recommending they amalgamate with other fire departments. First off, because of daytime staffing, that is really becoming an issue in a lot of volunteer departments. They just can't get daytime people. We've got some that are down to 3 people during the day. That's not enough to do a proper house fire. Under the NFPA standards, you need 16 firefighters on scene to fight a residential structure fire that's 2,000 square feet. So that's becoming problematic. But the automatic aid agreements, a lot of municipalities are looking at those as I wouldn't say a cost saving, but a means of enhancing their level of fire protection for some areas that are further away from their fire station. The only problem with that is if the department that's under contract with you to come and help you is already at a call, then there's a delay in them sending somebody else going from your own department. So there are a lot of pros and cons depending where it is, but availability is one of the biggest ones that could be an issue. If they're already at a call when they're needed in your municipality, then they're not coming. Now, having said that as well, a number of municipalities are now invoicing as a means of revenue generation to offset their operating costs for every fire call. So they have a third party come in and invoice for the services the fire department provides. Right now, they can invoice for accidents on any MTO roads, operator roads. The fire department can invoice MTO and get some money back. But if your fees by law, and I was guilty of it when I worked in Barrie, I was deputy chief in Barrie for a number of years. I enhanced our fees by law that we did start charging for all motor vehicle collisions for non-residents. Residents were not invoiced. And we had a contract with MTO where we could bring up everybody's license plate number and see where they lived. And the ones that were outside of Barrie were invoiced and the ones in Barrie were not. So that is a means of revenue generation, but some of them are invoicing for every call they go on. A lot of people don't realize it, but your house insurance policy and your car insurance policy do have clauses in there that state that they will pay for the services of the fire departments. And that's in the fine print within the insurance policies. So as a means of offsetting the costs, a lot are now looking at enhancing their fees and charges by law to incorporate a lot more things for the fire department, such as inspections, false alarms, gas leaks, hazmat calls, technical rescues. If they have to bring in extra equipment to extinguish a fire, such as a backhoe or something like that, that they can recover the costs. But that all has to be stipulated in your fees by law. So there's a lot of areas that you could be charging that you're not now. Again, the acting fire chief could look at that and answer that better to you as to what enhancements could happen in the future.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that we have to look at all these extra fees to survive government rules and regulations that are being enforced and strongly changed pretty well every day, likely. Which to me, it's small municipalities are really struggling with that type of service. Fire department service is great, but struggling with the costs and the upkeep and maintaining those types of standards that are required and wanted by the government to enforce the department. So
yes, the costs are getting really high. And if I might add that the cost of bunker gear, just an example, the NFPA standard says that after 10 years, it can't be used for structural firefighting. There are some rural departments in Ontario that bunker gear has never gone in a fire. So it's never been exposed to a fire, but yet it's outlawed after 10 years to be used for structural firefighting. And the cost to replace it, I don't know what the going rate now is, but when I left work in 2014, we were paying $2,400 a set of bunker gear. So now I'm gathering that probably anything off the shelf now is probably $2,000 to $2,500 per set. That's quite an exposure for a small municipality to have to pay for.
Good questions there, Councillor. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Rick. I believe Councillor MacArthur has another question.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Rick as a former member of the department and back in the old days. I'm really glad to see that you've brought up the new technologies and trying to get us up to speed. And I was really glad to see in your report, you're saying our price per household that we spend on firefighting is $313, which is looking at your comparisons, we're about middle of the road compared to everybody else. So thanks very much for your report.
If I might use for an example, we're doing one right now for a municipality, the fire master plan, and I was astounded. They're paying close to $2,000 a house to the fire department, which
Wow.
is really a high amount.
Excellent. Nothing further from members? Just go back to Mr. Walker for a minute. I made a little note. We do have the Fire Mark program with an insurance that provides Fire Mark collection on some expendables. It doesn't cover everything, but we do have a little bit of cost recovery, and that's been very helpful so far. And perhaps it's something we can investigate in the future as well. Okay, Rick, I want to thank you very much for your presentation. Chief, thank you. Members of council, the clerk has provided me with a bit of a couple of motions here. And so I'm going to go through them. But what I would like to do is move forward the Fire Master Plan recommendation FD 001-2023. So I'll bring that forward in a moment. And so I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that the deputation from Rick Monkman, Fire Services Executive Consultant from Emergency Management Group, be received. A mover and seconder for that. Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Broderick, any questions on the receive? Seeing none, all those in favor? That'll be received and carried. So council, if you refer to report number FD 001-2023, it's the Fire Master Plan. I'm just moving it forward since Mr. Monkman's here, as the chief is here at this time too. Recommendation, be it resolved that report number FD 001-2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. Is there a mover and seconder on the call? Mr. Walker and Mr. MacArthur, both former firefighters, if you don't mind. Any questions? I have one last question. Maybe I missed it because it's a big document. When does it expire? We got to redo it.
So there is no expiry, but generally it's about 10 years.
10-year project? Okay, just to give me an idea. Members of council, any questions? All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, former Chief, Mr. Monkman. Nice to have you here. Thank you. Thank you, council, for letting us move that along. Council, we're going to move to a presentation by Sonia Reichel as a person who's on our agenda, but I do know for a fact that Mr. Rob Peacock is in the audience. Rob is the campaign director for the Georgian Triangle Humane Society. Rob, thank you very much for your patience and glad to have you join us. You've got a presentation for us here tonight.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. And I appreciate everybody's time. And I also want to thank in particular both Barbara Kane and John Ferguson for helping me through the process and enlighten me to have a clear view on things. I have to have a little humor. Okay. Whenever you're ready, I guess, Sarah.
Sarah, have that? Sarah, do you have it? All right. Thank you.
The magic will appear.
Thank you very much, Rob, for the the use of the word Clearview. We're happy to have you here.
How about nothing but a hound dog?
No,
GTHS? No,
that's a whole nother community.
Now we have a picture of the summer.
Excellent.
In the middle of the winter, but we're not having a lot of snow anyway.
Feel warm. Carry on.
I'm just going to roll through and say, if I can, Sarah, when to, because some of the, if you will, information is just there. But it's a pleasure to be here. We with the Georgian Triangle Humane Society, you're essentially doing deputations to all 6 municipalities in the southern Georgian Bay region. They're virtually all identical. Save and except one for Collingwood. They get a small extra ask. And essentially what this is about is creating a new regional center for pets and people from all 6 of the municipalities, whether it be Grey Highlands, Meaford, Town of Blue Mountains, Wasaga Beach, Clearview, and Collingwood. And so, Sarah, next. So it's to thank you also for your continued appreciation of what GTHS does. And I know some of you know a little bit more perhaps than others, but we have had a relationship with virtually all the municipalities in different ways and so forth. Talk a little bit about some of the facts. That's what they did on a famous police show way back, and some of the solutions And finally, creating perhaps as much as anything, a partnership. Next. So essentially, we are located within Simcoe County and so forth, and in Clearview Township. I would say a little bit more in terms of representation with Wasaga Beach, Collingwood, and Clearview in terms of usage. And again, we thank you for being a part of this. Next. So some facts. GTHS adopts an average of 1,300 pets and so forth. We have over 1,600 surgeries annually. We currently have a team of 27 people and 250 volunteers, but you're going to see how that's going to grow and exponentially with the new regional center. We have animal transfer programs and food banks. Yes, food banks. COVID caused food banks to occur. Next. So in terms of regional growth, we're involved with spay and neutering programs, dog training, socialization, very important. We have a Treasure Tales thrift store. In other words, we're heavily involved in social enterprise, youth programs, lost and found support, adoption, surrender services, emergency boarding, emergency medical assistance, and so forth. Next. And one of the things that we're actually embarking on, and this is a newer initiative that will take light, we have an individual up at Grey Bruce Health Services who's currently doing her PhD in pets and people. And she's a former retired OPP sergeant, and she'll be working with our folks, Karen in particular, at GTHS to further develop the mental health programs, because it is proven through several organizations, especially in the United States, but also at CAMH in Toronto and the Toronto Humane Society, that pets and people do have an important relationship, and it's very good for one's mental health. A lot of fun too. Next. So GTHS in particular provides municipal related services for pound providers for dogs at large housing, stray dogs found and so forth, providing free spay and neutering, accepting in stray and surrendered cats and dogs. But here in particular in Clearview, we have 246 this past year animals that were spayed and neutered through GTHS. Next. So what's it all about? Well, you think, okay, I've mentioned pets, I've mentioned people, but in fact, what about some of the economic impact? This will be a new 20,000 square foot facility right on the edge, if you will, of Collingwood, almost coming into Clearview. Not quite, but it's a $15 million facility, 20,000 square feet. And it will attract 30,000 visitors per year when the ribbon is cut in 2026. It'll engage 600 volunteers and employ over 50 full-time staff, currently 27. In fact, just 10 years ago, there were 8. So the need is exponentially growing, and this is not empire building either. In fact, some have suggested in many ways this is an essential service. Next. So those are the 60 municipalities that we're providing the opportunity to seek support from, and we're trying to work in the collective, but we're doing 6 deputations like we are here this evening. And I represent Sonia Reichel, our executive director, who's been with us for over 10 years. And that's our ceiling. We're asking every municipality to give thoughtful consideration to 250,000. But where it all ends, and we're not asking for approval necessarily right now. We want to have thoughtful consideration to work in the collective in the very near future. We are currently at $3.5 million in our campaign on a $15 million objective. We also have, I'll call it some very rewarding future considerations that'll be coming through this year. Translation, I have to talk a bit. I have to be careful in how I put this, but we've got a winner. We're going to make it. We're going to make our 15 million. But what difference does it make to go to the municipalities? Some might call it the good housekeeping seal of approval, but others, some of the companies, some of the individuals within the community, and some of the private foundations, they want to know what the municipalities are doing. And it is a regional center. We have to think regionally, act locally, and that's what we do. Next. So that's the ask. It's right there, $250,000 or up to, and essentially trying to cover up to 10% of the overall project. And we're suggesting that we spread this over like we do with all our major benefactors, spread it over a period of time. 4 years is just a suggestion. I thank you for your time. Questions, comments?
Well,
yes,
thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. That was a good presentation. And yes, I'm very familiar with the facility. It was my pleasure to join other area dignitaries and mayors and deputy mayors and politicians to join you in the announcement of the location of the site. And yes, it is sort of adjacent to Clearview, and it was a pleasure to be there and attend with Sonia and her entire team. So it was great to see. So I'll put it to the floor if there's any members of council who have any questions to Rob about this. Looking back and forth, no questions. Rob, I'll give you my question, and that is that I appreciate what you're saying. You're making presentations to all 6 of these municipalities. So, it's good to find out whether they want to participate in it as well. So have you got any feedback yet? Or I guess you're just in the middle of it right now, are you?
We're just in the beginning. Collingwood was at 5 o'clock. TBM, Town of Blue Mountains, was at 5:30. This is right now, and there's 3 more coming up in the next 3 weeks. But they all know who we are. We've met with all the CAOs, and we've also met with a number of the councils and so forth where we could. So it's a process. It probably will culminate, Your Worship, around February 1st.
Okay, that's a good timeline. Perhaps you could get back to us and let us know how you made out with the other. Okay. Is that doable?
I think it's doable. I'm not sure where everybody's going to be, but yeah, we'll be delighted to do so.
Well, let's keep the conversation open. I mean, it's
great.
It's something that certainly impacts our community, and there's an awful lot of pet owners. I know members of council and candidates who ran in the previous election. If they did any door knocking, I'm sure you met an awful lot of dogs. It happens. Yeah, that's what happens when you knock on doors. Knock, knock, knock. There's woof, woof, woof.
Right.
What happens?
Right. Absolutely.
So certainly in my past campaigns, I've had that experience, so I can appreciate that.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rob. Rob, we have a motion here that I'll read. Members of council, was prepared by our staff for me to read at this time. So I'll read this. If you have any questions, I'd be interested to look for a mover and seconder. Council, be it resolved that the deputation of Rob Peacock, campaign director for the Georgian Triangle Humane Society, be received. And further, that this item be referred back to the Georgian Triangle Humane Society to provide a summary to the treasurer of the responses received from requests for support by the society to other municipalities. And further, that staff be directed to bring forward a report of the summary, together with budget implications of the request by the Georgian Triangle Humane Society, to council for consideration in the 2023 budget. I'll look for a mover and seconder and then any amendments. Mr. Walker, would you move it? Thank you. Is there a seconder? Mr. Broderick, thank you very much. Anybody got a question on this? I can reread it if you like. Yeah, basically, I believe the staff have prepared a motion that's asking us to ask the GTHS to give us a report on how they made it with their other asks for other municipalities. And then that information be shared with staff, and then through the CAO's office, you can bring it through to the budget discussions and deliberations. Does that sound fair?
Great.
Mr. CAO, have you got any comments?
Thank you very much.
All right, members of
Happy 2023.
Don't go away. Members of council, any further questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. There you go.
Take care.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Rob, for
night.
joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you for your patience, and I appreciate the fact that we're able to move the two items around on the agenda. So thanks for being cooperative. Council, we're going to move on to item number 6 on our agenda. There's public meetings. There are no public meeting sections tonight. Just a reminder that public meetings for the Planning Act are held on a Wednesday at a separate meeting. It's one of the procedural changes that happened late in the term last term. So any public meetings that would happen during regular council meetings are associated with other items. Okay. Approval of the council meeting minutes. So council, we have 2 separate meeting minutes, and I'll present them to you for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved that the minutes of the December 12, 2022 council meeting and the special council meeting workshop minutes of December 9, 2022, which includes an item amended from January the 4th, be approved as presented. Does that make sense, Madam Clerk? Okay. Mover and seconder, Ms. Deneen and Mr. Beelan, any questions on the minutes? No, Mr. Walker. Yes, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will not be voting on this as I was absent from the December 9th meeting.
Correct. Yes, you were, and I appreciate that. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. And business arising from the minutes, if any. I'm not sure if there was anybody of anything. I'll just comment this, that while the orientation workshops are completed, this is a continuous learning process for all members of council. And so even though we're not having workshops as an orientation, there's always time for you to meet with staff and ask questions and learn the ropes, as they say. So keep up the good work, council. Communications from the mayor. There's nothing to report specifically. There was no items for us. I would like to comment on some media that's been happening in our community, and I'll take an opportunity at this point just to do that. Certainly in our community, we are aware, or at least this administration and the staff here are very aware of the work that's going on at the Huronia Guest Home. Just for some clarity, we have very limited actual areas of authority and responsibility that we can react to as a corporation. We have, I can confirm our fire services have been very much engaged all through 2021 and 2022 with the facility, various inspections, some non-compliance orders, some repair orders done. And in fact, for the year 2022, they met the fire code inspections. So that moved ahead. There are still some property standard issues that are outstanding, that are within our authority, and that's still in negotiations. However, an order has been given to bring up some standards. And so those are the areas that we have responsibility for as this administration, as Clearview Township. I can report to you that the county of Simcoe has been engaged in working the problem and working with the residents and the owner of the facility to try to bring some resolution there to help clean up the concerns. So there are some really obvious areas of administrative and legislative responsibility that's missing between provincial legislation, municipal legislation, and frankly, human dignity issues. So it's a real frustrating thing. The province of Ontario has been certainly aware of this. Ministry of Health through the Ontario Health Team have been engaged, and so they're working the problem, but it's a real difficult one given that there's a real hole in the legislation. So I think the first priority and the thing I want to commend is the community has done a tremendous job coming out and supporting the residents when they've been having a really difficult time. The two groups I'm just going to acknowledge, and that is that the Stainer and District Lions Club stepped up and did a delivery of food when there was a call for it. And the second one is an organization that we don't hear about in Clearview Township very often, and it's the Busby Center. The Busby Center is based out of Barrie. We have other remote offices and other urban centers across Simcoe County. And we're a rural municipality, and the Busby Center sent staff persons over to monitor the facility when there were no staff in the facility. So I thought that was quite generous of them and quite rewarding that they were able to be there in the time of need in our community. So it was quite nice to have their support. There's very little that we can report on other than that's the activity that's been going on. So I just want to comment on that because there's been obviously significant media coverage of it. And I know that our staff are working diligently to deal with this crisis. Remember, any questions? No. All right. That's all I have from communications from the mayor and from council reports. I know that the deputy mayor and I will be attending a budget meeting tomorrow for the first time for this budget year for county council. That happens tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's a Zoom meeting with all 32 members of our council, as well as all the staff will be making their presentations. It's a pretty extensive budget for the county. It's pushing $700 million plus is what the budget is. It's a crazy budget, but it's enormous services that the county of Simcoe provide right across this whole region, and so it's not surprising considering the cost of running the county. So that's our work tomorrow. Later on in the month, I'll be meeting along with the striking committee as a member of county council to participate in the striking of various committees and appointing members to various committees. And then the committee work begins, including the return of the Agricultural Advisory Committee to Simcoe County, which is quite nice. We're going to have that return. And I know that Deputy Mayor Van Stavern has put his name in for that. And hint, hint, I'm going to be pushing like crazy to make sure he gets in there. So we'll see what happens. Okay. All right. Members of council, I have nothing further to report on that, on county. Any questions? Okay. Then we'll go around with council reports at this time. And since we only got a few people at the table right now, we'll start with Mr. Walker first, and then we'll come right around, and maybe the deputy mayor is coming back in. I'm not sure where he went. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple quick things. On Saturday, I was able to join the Cyber Gnomes in the reveal of their project, which is called Charged Up, for the robotics team. They sent somebody down, Debrani went down Mississauga afterwards to pick up their kit. And they were all heading to the shop to sit down and go over the rules and start their design phase already. So it looks to be a very interesting competition. And I wish them well in their build, and I wish them well in their competitions. The other thing is I have accessibility meeting tomorrow, library orientation tomorrow, and then we have our budget meeting on Thursday. I just want to make one comment, Your Worship. It's amazing what keeps minds rolling. Something that happened 3 years ago was brought up here tonight. Staff have told and talked to that individual as well as myself. And I'm finding it very distracting that somebody has not let go of something that has happened at least 3 years ago. And it's time that people grew up, and it's time that people worried about the present, not the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. I'm just going to say this. Keep up the good work, sir. Mr. Beelan, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Winter Emma has a meeting tonight. The Brentwood Hall has a Zoom meeting on January 26th. And the Evening Hall is, we're going to have a meeting January 19th. Also, I'd like to talk about a long-term Clearview resident that we've lost, Willie Ivets. He was a good friend of mine. We went to school right from grade 1 to grade 12. When we were still Sunnydale Township, he was a firefighter for 25 years. He became captain and then chief. He was on the Sunnydale Parks and Rec Committee for 10 years. He was active with Winterama, and he was known as Winterama Willie. We will miss you, Willie Ivets. Thank you.
Well said, sir. Thank you for that. Councillor Deneen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, we were talking about it earlier. It's been a quiet new year, and that's kind of good. I'll take that. Do have a Nottawa, our first Nottawa Hall Board on Thursday, a meeting at 7:30. I'm looking forward to meeting our new volunteers, and more volunteers are always welcome. It's also on the 17th, next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, my first Duntroon Hall board since our new configuration. I'm looking forward to getting to know the board members there as well. And that's about it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Just quickly on the Ottawa Hall, it was really busy during the Christmas season with a whole pile of markets and things like that. It was a really active spot. There was one day, the main street of Ottawa, you could not find a spot to park on either side of County Road 124, all the way from Buse Street, all the way to the bridge. Like, I mean, both sides of the road, cars all the way up and down the street. It was impressive.
And Sunday, we had a family of 50 having their Christmas.
Fantastic. It's just great to see the hall that busy. Good job. Over here to Mr. MacArthur. Hello, Mr. MacArthur.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Hello from Creemore. Like everybody else, it was a very quiet holiday period. Creemore downtown did suffer a little bit of storm damage in the winds. We lost a limb off one of the big trees, but luckily it was didn't damage anything else except the tree itself. So good for that. As everybody else said, meetings are starting to happen here. And of course, I'll have my fair share coming up this week as well. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Well, good luck with that. All right. Hello there, Councillor Broderick. How are you, John?
I'm good, Your Worship.
Good.
This time I don't have anything to add that hasn't already been covered.
Is that right? How about I ask you, you got something going on with the Shrine Club? Are they still doing their bingos and that kind of thing? Is that still
Yes, they
happening?
are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still on
Okay.
every Wednesday night.
Good luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, members of council, I have nothing further, but that was good. I hope that the deputy mayor is feeling better. Council, we're going to move on to department reports. We've got a few things to go through here. So we'll go through. If there's members of staff who wish to speak, those that are joining us by Zoom, turn on your camera if you wish to speak. That way I can get the attention that I see here on the screen. Council, we're going to go to report PB 01-2023 is the Committee of Adjustment for December. Recommendation be it resolved that the report PB 001-2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. Can I have a mover and seconder? Okay, Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur, any questions on the Committee of Adjustment report? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries, thank you. PB 002-2023 is the proposed building permit fee bylaw. I'll read the recommendation and then look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved that report PB 002-2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. And further, that a bylaw be enacted to amend Schedule B of the building bylaw 05-25 and to repeal Schedule I of fees and charges bylaw 17-110. Okay, mover and seconder, looking this direction. Okay, I see you got a question. How about I look for a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Beelan, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's just not showing up on our thing again.
Oh, the display is not working?
The report. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I read it, but I'm okay with it, but it's.
If you go to the bylaw portion, it's all there.
Oh, it's all in the bylaw.
It's back into the bylaw. It's there. Your Worship, that's where I went to find all the information that I needed.
Okay.
You want me to look on the screen?
That's okay. I mean, if council's comfortable, if they've read it, I mean, we had a good report and we talked about it. Amy, do you have anything you'd like to add? I know you're in the room. See, I'm looking at the screen for Scott McLeod. He didn't come up, so I see you. How you doing there, Amy Can?
I'm good. Thank you,
Thank you.
Worship. Scott is with us on the screen there if we do have any particular questions, but we had our public meeting and all the information was provided to you for a recommendation of a 0% increase this year.
Right. All right. Okay, so just as an aside, Madam Clerk, maybe we need to investigate why some of these links are not working. Not right this minute,
No, we can
but
definitely do that. Thank you.
yeah, we'll look into it. Thank you for that, Councillor Beelan. Okay, council, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Council, PB 003-2023 2022. It's official plan amendment for 1935 Fairgrounds Road North. I have the recommendation that I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved that report PB 003 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. And further, that a bylaw be enacted to adopt an official plan amendment substantially in the form included as Appendix C and attachment number 1 to report PB 003 2023. Look for a mover and seconder. Ms. Deneen, Mr. Beelan, thank you. Any questions? I see Mr. Ainley is on board. Hello, Nick. Do you have anything you'd like to report before I ask for any further questions? Hello, Nick.
Hello, Your Worship. No, nothing to report in particular. Hopefully my report was self-explanatory, but if there's any questions, I'm definitely here to answer them.
All right. Thanks very much, Nick. I'll just point out it is still going to the county. I'm unsure as to clarification. If I can go to Ms. Can, our director, while this is happening, we're still in a transition period as a result of Bill 23. So I'm just thought I'd ask, what's the status on this if this passes?
Yes, thank you, Worship. That is an excellent question. I was in communication with the Conservation Authority and the county right before the Christmas break. And we understand that generally processes, including things like processing official plan amendments, where of course the county is our approval authority currently, those things will remain status quo until we have regulations from the province indicating how transition rules will impact these things. So
Right.
Status quo at this time.
So it's in transition. I'm just interpreting what you're saying. It's in transition and we're expecting legislation to be passed that will clarify it in further steps.
Yes, correct.
Okay. There you go. So it's still going to go to the county. All right. Good report, Nick. Thank you very much. Any members of council, anything further? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That also carries unanimous. Thank you very much. And so actually, Amy, if I may, you could just update us if we hear what's going on with the county. I mean, I'll hear about it at the county, but as long as you keep this council up to date as to what the status is on that, I just appreciate it.
Yes.
Kind of a transition period, so it'd be helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, council, this is report PB 005 2023, zoning bylaw amendment. It's a deferral of the lift of the hold H12 at 7044 Highway 26 Clearview. Okay, recommendation be it resolved that report PB 005 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. And further that the passing of a zoning bylaw to remove the hold H12 symbol for a portion of the lands municipally known as 7044 Highway 26 Clearview and legally described as Nottawasaga Concession 1 Part Lot 25, Registered Plan 51R41138, Parts 1 to 5, Township of Clearview, be deferred until registration of the Nottawasaga Station Phase 2 Plan of Subdivision is completed to the satisfaction of the municipality. Mover and seconder. Mr. Walker, Ms. Deneen, thank you. Any questions on this or the staff wish to speak to it? I'll look for the staff first. I saw your card there, Walker. Is Nick, are you speaking to this?
Yeah, sorry, this one's mine as well. So unfortunately, we were hoping to have the subdivision agreement registered for the Phase 2 Nottawasaga Station for this council meeting as well. So try and not hold things up. We were hoping to have the holding pass at the same time. Unfortunately, there was a kind of last minute few items that did come up here, so we did not subsequently approve or register the Phase 2 subdivision. So the lifting of the H should be premature until that's done. So we wrote my reports defer until the Nottawasaga Station Phase 2 subdivision region has been approved and registered.
All right. I appreciate that. Again, another fine report by Nick. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Yes, my question was where then in the order is the completion of their what they have to do to get this whole symbol lifted?
Yes, through your worship, Councillor Walker. So there is a number of items that are required, obviously, for subdivision approval. That said, the applicants have been working diligently for the past 2 years on final approval for the Phase 2 lands. There is just some minor, well, the engineering is kind of at the near final state. There are some final items that are required. There is some NTO Final clearance that is required as well, and securities also need to be put in place. So we expect that can be done in the near term, but unfortunately it wasn't done in time to have the lift go forward at the same time as well. So that's where the deferral comes from at this point in time.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else, members of council, for any questions? Any other comments? Amy or Nick, anything further? All right, thank you very much. Can I ask then, this is a little unusual, and that is that it's not removing the hold. At what point would there be a motion brought back to council that would continue to move this forward? I mean, are we expecting any time, or are we expecting a report that's additional information, or I just find it unusual, that's all.
To you,
Sure.
your worship. Nick, I'm happy to take this one. So typically, you're right, it is a little bit unusual. So the Planning Act requires that we provide notice of an intention to remove a holding provision. And typically that's sort of open-ended, indicating that the process will ensue and allow staff an opportunity to review whether or not the items required to remove the holding provision have been received satisfactorily. So in this case, the notice of intention to remove the holding provision was issued with a date indicated that it would be happening at tonight's council meeting. So in order to not leave council hanging on the matter, we decided to bring a report forward to indicate consistent with the notice that we don't have everything we need yet, and that something will be coming as soon as we receive items to fulfill those two requirements.
All right.
So very technical and
it is very technical.
Yeah.
It sounded interesting because from my desk, I look at this as this would be simply where we would ask council to ask for a deferral. That's as simple as it is. It doesn't, you know, like it's a full report with a very good backstory as to why it's not being supported by staff. It could easily have been done with a motion of a councillor to ask for it to be deferred. I'm just saying. So it's good. Interesting procedural thing. Okay, nothing further. Members of council, you got a motion. We have a mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? It carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All righty. I got another couple items here. Let's see. A zoning bylaw amendment for 6934 and 7044 Highway 26. Recommendation that PB 006-2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received, and further that a bylaw be brought forward to the council meeting of January 30th, 2023 to amend zoning bylaw 0654, generally consistent with the draft bylaw included as Appendix D to report PB 006-2023. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, seconded Mr. Walker. And Nick, you're still on board. Anything you want to add to this?
Nothing in particular, but this would be the Sobeys development that's also located in the overall Estates of Clearview subdivision. So this is the rezoning component of it. I would just note there is a concurrent site plan approval process that is kind of following concurrently, but this is for the actual zoning of the site. So I'm again here to answer any questions that council may have.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Please stand by. Members of council, any questions to Nick or Amy? All right. Seeing none. Thank you very much, staff, council. We've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. All right. Council, over to finance. Thank you to the planning staff. Thank you, Nick. Finance department. FIN 001, the interim tax bylaw, which is always a good discussion point with the public. I will read the recommendation and then perhaps if there's any questions, we do have, I believe, a staff person. Yes, our treasurer is there. Members of council, I'll bring the recommendation. Be it resolved. Report number FIN 001 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. And further that an interim tax bylaw be enacted. Can I look for a mover and seconder? Ms. Deneen, Mr. Beelan, thank you. Any questions? You've read the report. It's got some significant dates in there in the report that we all want to pay attention to, the 4 interim installments. The dates are in there, and I believe they will be well published on the website of the township. So everybody is fully aware of it. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? Oops, that does carry. Thank you. I smacked the microphone. Move it back a little bit. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor, for returning. All right. Okay, perfect. That's good. I'm glad he's okay. I know he was not feeling that great, so I appreciate him taking a break. Council, FIN 002 is the temporary borrowing bylaw. So be it resolved that report number FIN 002 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received, and further that a temporary borrowing bylaw be enacted. Mover and seconder, Mr. Broderick, seconded by Mr. Beelan. Broderick and Beelan. Is there any questions to the Treasury staff in regards to a temporary borrowing bylaw? No questions? I'm going to give a quick comment. I believe we pass this every year at this time, and I don't recall us actually using it, which is kind of neat. Like you pass it so that there's an ability to actually borrow if you need it, but we don't actually use it because our finances are in pretty robust shape and are able to handle the waiting for the taxations to start coming in. So it's a good thing, but it's a good tool to have it available to the Treasury Department. Members of council, anything further? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Unanimous. And here we are, the section in regards to property tax refunds. Be it resolved that report FIN 003 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received, and further that the township treasurer is hereby directed in accordance with section 357 and 358 of the Ontario Municipal Act to process the cancellation, reduction, or refunds of property taxes for certain properties in the amount totaling $28,379.04 for the years 2020 and 2022 inclusive, as outlined in Appendix A to report FIN 003 2023. Can I have a mover and seconder on this side? Mr. Walker, Ms. Deneen, any questions to the staff? Pretty comprehensive report. The schedule is quite interesting. All right. Any questions? All right. Treasury staff, you're getting away on this one. Good job. Members of council, you've got a motion in front of you. We're prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. All right. Moving on to page 6. I believe it's one more report and then bylaws. I'm not mistaken. If I can get to my page 6. Oh, look at that. Miss Clerk, we have the election summary. That's always a good topic. How was that election?
It was good. Thank you.
It was good. There you go. Report LS 001 2023. This is the 2022 election summary. Be it resolved that report LS 001 2023 dated January 9, 2023 be received. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Deneen Walker. Thank you. Ms. Clerk, would you like to speak to the report? It's got some kind of interesting info in it.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe it's self-explanatory. If council wishes me to provide a summary, I can. If not, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, excellent. Any questions to the clerk in regards to the report? Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. A number of my people in my ward would like to see paper ballots the day of the election. And I'm wondering, is that something that we're going to do here? I didn't read it anywhere in there for the next election.
Yes, I believe it's in the report, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Beelan. For considerations for the 2026 elections, there were requests for paper ballots and tabulators to be permitted on voting day. And there was also a request that no voting on a Sunday in person, or to have an additional voting day within the same hamlet. You're welcome. Yeah.
On that same point, Mr. Beelan, it's interesting that there's 400 and something persons who use the opportunity to have a ballot, a paper ballot, while there was 3,000 plus who used electronically. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions to the clerk? All right. Well, Thank you. No questions. Madam Clerk, I just want to thank you again for you and the staff for executing an election and congratulations. It was obviously always a challenge to make sure it's correct and make sure it's balanced and make sure that it's transparent. And so I thought you did a very good job of that. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Members of council, you've got a motion in front of you. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Well done. Council, we're moving on to our bylaws. So the building bylaw, which is amending bylaw 0525. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2301, imagine that's the first official bylaw right now is 2301 for this term. Being a bylaw to amend bylaw 0525, being a bylaw respecting construction, demolition, and change of use permits, inspections, and to repeal sections I of bylaw 17-110, being a bylaw to provide for the imposition of fees and charges for the Township of Clearview, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 9th day of January, 2023. A mover and seconder. Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur. Thank you, Broderick MacArthur. Any questions on the bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call it. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. Item 2302, official plan amendment number 25. This is about the discussion of 1935 Fairgrounds Road North. Recommendation. Be it resolved that bylaw 2302, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 25 to the official plan of the Township of Clearview, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on the 9th day of January, 2023. A mover and seconder on that. Ms. Deneen, Mr. Walker, any questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. The 2023 interim tax bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2304, being a bylaw to levy an interim tax for the year 2023, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 9th day of January, 2023. Mover and seconder. Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Broderick. Arthur Broderick, any questions? I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? Bylaw carries. And temporary borrowing bylaw 2305. Be it resolved, bylaw 2305, being a bylaw to authorize a temporary borrowing of monies to cover current expenditures until taxes and other revenues are collected or received, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 9th day of January, 2023. A mover and seconder on this bylaw. Mr. Beelan and Mr. Walker. Thank you. Mr. Beelan, Mr. Walker. Any questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. All right, almost done. Members of council, we are at item 13, notice of motion or new business. Anybody get a notice of motion or new business? I don't think there's anything published. Thank you. Bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our meeting. Recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2306, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the January 9, 2023 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on the 9th day of January, 2023. Can I have that moved by Councillor Broderick, Councillor MacArthur? And any questions? All those in favor? That's the confirmatory passes. Thank you. All right, council, the clock up there on the wall is certainly not working, but the one on my watch says we're okay. So we're going to adjourn this meeting at what is that? 7:13. How's that? Sounds good. Be it resolved, council meeting adjourned at 7:13 p.m. Mr. Need, Mr. Beelan, any questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you all at the budget discussion later on in the week. Thank you. Good night.
Can I see your computers?